Episode 20, Video Games. Woo! Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover all kinds of cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show.
Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the Visionary Variety Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm joined with Daniel Grove, your friendly neighborhood nerdtographer.
Hey.
And Nate Gunn, the guy who's still trying to beat level 1 in Tetris.
Oh, hey guys, what's up?
And I am Angela Brock, the recovering video game addict.
Hi.
Hey, people.
Video Games Anonymous.
Right. Anyways, as you might have guessed, this episode is all about video games. We all have like a history with video games somewhat. We've all played as kids, and some of us still play today as adults. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like a no-brainer to talk about that, especially with E3 going on. And that's something we're going to talk about in a future podcast episode. So we're going to be talking about our favorite video games and our history with gaming. But first, let's answer some questions. So guys, how old were you when you first started gaming?
I was late to the game, pun intended. I was probably like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, something like that.
So what system did you like start out playing?
For me, my first real console, well, my first game system was the Game Boy.
That's nice.
For whatever reason, we never had a Super Nintendo growing up. That was like around the time we would have had one, but I guess we were poor when I was a kid, so we didn't have anything extra. But I did have a Game Boy, and then I got a Game Boy Color, and played incessantly on that. So. What about you, Nate?
Pretty early. I remember playing some games in arcades and all that fun stuff. And then I remember my dad introduced me to Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, I believe was what it's called. And I think we just kind of played on that for a while.
That's super fun. I think I was the earliest to the game compared to you guys because my parents reportedly say that I've been playing games on the computer since I was 2.
Wow.
Like old enough
impressive.
to where I could manipulate the mouse and click on things and seem to know what I was doing to an extent. So
Overachiever much?
I guess. But like for the actual memories that I have for playing games, I know I was definitely playing consoles by age 4 at the latest, maybe 3
Awesome.
even, but I don't recall. Yeah, I was playing my sister's NES and her Sega Genesis for sure. I have pretty vivid memories of playing like the old Super Mario and Duck Hunt on the NES and a bunch of like movie and TV show tie-in stuff on the Sega, like
many.
Lion King and Aladdin.
Those are good.
And yeah, those are actually surprisingly good games for like movie tie-in stuff. And of course, Sonic the Hedgehog was a favorite on Genesis. You cannot be a Genesis kid and not have Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep, that was like the game for that system.
Mm-hmm.
What are some genres that you guys like the most now?
I really enjoy like the action adventure kind of style of games. Like Legend of Zelda specifically is like a good example of that sort of game.
Yeah.
Basically, any game you can run around and beat monsters and explore and find collectibles, I really enjoy a lot. And I also like platformers a lot, kind of like Mario, when you have to do like different like jumping and acrobatics to get around through a level. Those are a lot of fun. And I like puzzle games a lot, like the Professor Layton games, like stretching my brain muscles a little bit. But like the games that I really seem to veer towards the most are like ones that tend to have like a really good story or like an art style that's pretty unique. I don't know. I guess I would say like I'm kind of like more of the artsy fartsy sort of games compared to like the general like shooters and generic plots that are out there a lot and a lot of AAA games now. I like looking for unique experiences to enjoy games. So anything that like really pushes that tends to catch my eye the most.
Makes you think and makes you...
exactly.
It gives you a surprise.
What about you guys?
I really liked, when I gamed more actively, which we'll get to that later. But back in the day when I gamed, I really liked RPGs because they had a story, they had character building. A lot of RPGs were, sci-fi or fantasy.
Right.
at the time at least. And yeah, I really like that. But I also liked quite a bit of RTS, military strategy games, where it's kind of like the aerial view and you're controlling a bunch of things at once. Because it's like it's multitasking, but then like you gotta remember stuff. Like if you leave something, on another part of the map, like you're gonna lose or whatever. So I like that challenge.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
For me, it's more like team-based games, like military strategy. A lot of fun. I mean, of course, there's arcade games I love and everything, but currently where I'm at right now, I definitely enjoy more of the co-op or the bigger map and like missions and stuff. And then for like first-person shooters, third-person shooters, nothing too scary, but more military team-based. So that's currently where I'm at.
That's cool. All right, so I have a question that might be a little odd to you guys because you can just like answer it as simply as like, "Oh, I like them because they're fun." But why do you guys still enjoy playing games today as adults?
It's an escape from adulting.
Right. That's a pretty common answer.
It used to be because they were fun and cool, and now it's because I don't want to be an adult. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's recreation for your brain. It's kind of just a change of pace from normal everyday adult stuff or family stuff. When you get some free time, it's just fun to like kick back and just relax and not think about other stuff. And at the same time, it's not like you're not using your brain. In fact, you're probably using your brain a lot more in different ways. Yeah. So I kind of like that. I like that aspect of gaming now.
Keeps up your hand-eye coordination skills and all that.
I agree. I think for me, it's more along the lines of you can, at least nowadays, you have the online purpose, like the capability, and you can keep up with friends that maybe you moved away, or you can keep up with friends that you haven't seen in a while. So I think that for me, it's an escape, like what Daniel was saying, but at the same time, it's also to be able to connect with people you maybe haven't seen in a while.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. I think for me, I'm like a big storytelling junkie, and that I try to find really unique and cool interactive ways of experiencing storytelling, whether it be like through movies or books or video games, especially. That's why I really like getting into video games a lot, because you have that level of interactivity you can't really experience anywhere else. So like I said before, I do like the games that focus on storytelling or things that give like a unique approach to it or have like a really cool message that you can interact with. And I don't know, I think that's the big reason why I'm so into it, just to really itch that storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that would be the same for me if I had time and if I did game like currently with those kinds of games. Like I feel like that would be the same because I love a good story, and that's really why I'm into movies and science fiction books. It's sort of that same thing, but just in a different outlet.
Yeah. All right. Now, I guess on the darker side of gaming, I'm very curious to know: was there ever like a game that you got addicted to, or did you ever experience a form of like general gaming addiction?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Without a doubt. What is it, Nate?
I have played. Okay, you guys are gonna laugh at me, and I'm sorry, but I played all night on Minecraft with
nice.
friends.
And then that is an addictive game.
Yeah. I mean, especially when I was playing with friends that knew how to mod stuff. So like it was endless capabilities and fun. And then before I realized it, I was like, hey, I think the sun's coming up. I need to go to bed.
Oh no.
So I was like, uh-oh.
What time is it again?
7.
That's awesome.
My gosh. That's why I never got into Minecraft, because I knew it would be a dark rabbit hole. I mean, could not pull myself out of.
I've pulled some late nights with like the strategy war games when like you have a group of people like 5, you're really in the conversation and you're really having fun. It's like really hard to like step away. Like it's like if you have a conversation with your friend and you have an appointment to go to, you're like, I really don't want to leave, but I gotta go. And so it's a lot like that.
You got to switch out and get back to adulting mode and go back to real life. Ugh.
Yeah.
Hate it. What about you, Daniel?
This is one of my favorite games that we're going to talk about later when we list them, but Total Annihilation. Like I played this as a kid, and of course I tried to play it every day because I was trying to get better and better and, just have fun with it. But later in adult life, I got back into it because I found that it was available on GOG.com, GOG, and for like $10. So I was like, dude, I'm buying this. Nice. And then I downloaded all the mods and all the additions and like hacks and stuff that people have been doing since it came out. And I played it almost every night for about a month. And, I was just like thinking about it throughout the day. And I'm like rearranging my schedule and trying to put the kids to bed earlier so I can play more.
You need to go to bed. I need a game.
My wife starts commenting on it. I'm like, okay, you're right. This is getting a little out of hand. I need to just calm down. And,
there's a point of like there's a lot of gaming is a lot of fun, and then there's a point where it's too much gaming, and people are like now hounding you, and you're like, "Hey, you need to do this." You're like, "But I'm like so close." They're like, "Yeah, but like you have responsibilities."
I know.
No.
So
it's
funny.
It's a fine line to walk sometimes, and I kind of went through like a general gaming addiction. Not too long ago. I think it was between the years of 2013 and 2015, if I had to estimate.
Yeah.
Like around that point, I was making enough money at the job that I worked to where I could buy like a lot of the games I missed out on childhood. And, I discovered on Amazon, oh man, they have these on it, like on there really cheap. So I went through a period where I was just buying like a lot of games, and I accumulated quite a backlog. And I spent like most of my nights just like playing through all of these games. And I was wanting to, after I get off work, I just want to go straight to that. And I was thinking about like getting to the next like area in a game all day.
Oh, yes.
I think at my worst, I probably beat like over 20 games in a year's period. So that's a lot of gaming. And some of these games were not short. Like I played some of these JRPGs like Final Fantasy.
Oh man.
Yeah, I sunk like 50 hours into some of these.
That's like the worst. When you have like when I was younger, I started getting paid like $10 an hour working camera stuff when I was like 12, 13, 14. And then they kept upping it. So by the time I was like 16, I was making $30 an hour for 8 hours a weekend, and I was like, yes,
video games.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
That's so funny. At least nowadays, I'm so much better about moderation. Probably a little too good because, man, I think I've only beat like one game so far this year, and we're already halfway through the year. And like, for example, I've been playing like Batman Arkham Origins since January this year, and I don't think I'm even like 25% of the way through it.
Wow,
so
that must be a deep game.
That's a hard game though.
I've gotten kind of good at the Batman game, so it hasn't been too bad. Like I said, I haven't even gotten like halfway through it, so I don't know what's waiting for me. Oh, but you're saying you're
just playing slower than you used to be. Yeah.
Right, like way slower and a lot less games for sure. So I've definitely dialed back on my game playing, but I still enjoy it. Probably a big reason why I haven't played as much is I'm not current with the latest generation of consoles. Like I don't own a PS4, an Xbox One, or a Nintendo Switch, even though I would love to have one of those. I just can't justify owning one at this point. But I think I have like one story of this, like probably the most intense experience of video game addiction that I've ever had in my life. And that was like soon after I first played Guitar Hero.
Oh no.
Really? My brother ended up buying a Guitar Hero World Tour, and I can't remember how old I was at the time when that was out. Maybe I was like 16 or something. So I played it for like an hour or two at his place. And man, when I came back home, I still had the biggest urge to play. Like I feel like I was seeing like, the guitar bridge like in front of me and the notes coming down, and like I'd be listening to songs and my fingers would just be going like pretending I was playing. And it was the weirdest thing that I had like this physical reaction to wanting to play this game so bad. I've never experienced anything like that before since.
It's so weird.
So like soon after that, I forget how soon, I had to get the game myself and get that
I've had moments
drive
like
out of me. So luckily after playing it for at least like a little bit after that, after owning it, that intense desire to play it like diminished. So thank goodness for that. But that was the weirdest instance of video game addiction I've ever had.
Man, I can't really say that because if I say I had an addiction to going, which I did, but it makes it sound like I'm a whack job. I had an addiction to go play shooting games.
Yeah, I think video game addiction can't be like under the same classification as like drug addiction, since you get like withdrawal symptoms and all that from drugs and such, and you don't really experience that with gaming.
Well, there's adrenaline, and I'm pretty sure there's dopamine release too when you do certain things in games, like scares or victories. Is like there's chemicals going on in your brain and natural chemicals.
Yeah, it's like some form of it, but it's not like what most people think of addiction as. Right. So I've heard of it classified under like a different sort of definition, but I can't remember what it is. But either way, it can take over your life. So to any of you gamers out there listening, please game in moderation.
Yeah.
Set yourself time limits or something if you gotta. I do that nowadays. Like I try not to play for over an hour. Definitely keep it under 2 hours and such if I play in a game, play daily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, people have done studies on gaming, like for social media. When you pull up your phone and you're addicted, it's like the same as a drug addict. Basically, is getting that like high, and when you take it away, it's a withdrawal. But that's also the same thing for video games. And they've also done studies like when you play like a team-based game, regardless if it's fantasy, war, or anything else, that you actually start building in your mind and your awareness of your space. Like they've done studies that people that play. I'll pick on me. People that play like war games where it's team based, like when you're in a grocery store, you have a good aware of where somebody is because you've been using that muscle for so long. I was like, what?
Yeah, that mental muscle of like spatial awareness or whatever.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing too. But
yeah,
mostly good for that in that case. Awesome. Well. I'm looking forward to this. Let's talk about our history of gaming, like how we got into it and stuff like that. Angela, you want to start off with your backstory?
Yeah.
Of your gaming addiction.
Right.
Where did it all begin?
Well, like I said before, I started at a very young age, and I think what helped like continue on gaming for me throughout the years was that my sister ended up working at like GameStops when she was a teenager and I was a little kid at this point, and she ended up becoming a manager at an EB Games when those were still around. So she was able to get like discounts on games and consoles and bring in like different video game memorabilia from conferences she would go to. So that kept like the influx of games coming into our house quite a bit. So I ended up playing like her PlayStation 2. Well, let me back up for a minute. I ended up playing her Nintendo 64 and her PlayStation 1 when we had those when we were younger, and then upgraded to PlayStation 2, and Nintendo GameCube, and even the original Xbox. So I had a lot of different games to play. Like I got into Super Mario 64 a lot as a kid, Crash Bandicoot. Sadly, I didn't get into any like the really good stuff when I was younger, like Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy, until I was like a teenager, because for some reason I just didn't gravitate to those yet. Sadly, when I was a kid, my taste in games was not the best. I play mostly like TV and movie tie-in stuff like SpongeBob and Rugrats and stuff like that, and it makes me sad. But I got into like the Kingdom Hearts series when I was about 10 years old, and I think that was my first experience with like RPG style gameplay. And anybody who knows Kingdom Hearts, it's a really weird series where they did a crossover with Disney and Final Fantasy. So that was, being a Disney kid, I really liked all that. And that was my first exposure to Final Fantasy games. And soon after that is when I got interested to actually play the Final Fantasy games. And to date, I've played through 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So
nice.
Yeah, and I have 10, but I haven't actually played it yet. And nowadays, I'm playing stuff on the PS3 mostly. Like I said before, I don't have any of the current gen of consoles, sadly. But yeah, I think that's all I can say for now without delving into my top video games list, which we will be talking about shortly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, for me, it would have to start at a very young age. So my parents, my uncle, cousins, all that stuff were big gamers. Not so much to be addicted, but like Street Fighter, shooters, and the old James Bond games. And so I would sit there and watch them play them on like the computer, or we go to the arcade. Now, we don't do that anymore, but when I was younger, I felt like when we went to the arcade, it was like a competitive spirit would show up all of a sudden on everybody. And like we loved everybody. And it wasn't like trash talking to be attacking a character, but about more like your skill. And it just turned from one thing to another. And then when there was a co-op game, like for shooters and stuff like that. But over time, my dad started introducing, like I said earlier, like the Sega Genesis and Nintendo games. And I went to a friend's house and I played like Super Smash Brothers a lot. Like, again, probably much longer than I should have.
That game's very addictive.
Yeah, no, it very much so is, because you can, I don't know, it's this endless fun and hitting people. And, and then we transitioned into like the more like Nintendo, like GameCube. Showed up at our house, and then I got the original Xbox over time, and then from the Xbox, my dad and I would play games, and the more and more it would become like a bonding time, which turned into an addiction, I think, for everybody. We would pull out the GameCube and at family events, and you could play 4 people. And so all of a sudden, Mario Kart was like back to the whole competitive thing, and it would just become like we'll play hours as families, and next and next, and so all of a sudden it would go like U2 versus U2 or U2 versus U2, and
That's
and
so
then it
funny.
became, and so over time I started meeting people that were into gaming, and so by that time I had like an Xbox 360, and online became more and more popular, where it was very simple, just like a phone call or a Facebook call. You could just hit a button and you were in a party, and that opened a whole new world. And I played many hours to many days on games, kind of all over the map, and it kind of led to conversations and opportunities and meeting friends. Now that after 10 years of gaming, I have friends that I know personally, or that I know on the other side of America, that I've actually had the chance of meeting at least once or twice. So it's pretty cool. And it's all the way up to current date. I've owned the Xbox One, PS4, and kind of in the same genre of games. Not so much Nintendo, because of course family's all kind of grown up and moved off. But it kind of, we've joked when they come back in time we should pull it out, and we never do. But it's always there, like that competitive spirit shows back up. And so, but I play a lot of more first-person shooters, and play a lot of Xbox One. So that's where I'm currently, and that's how it started to now.
Very fun. Well, I didn't start as early as you guys, unfortunately. I kind of wish I did. It was sort of weird. Like, I was like a nonconformist. Everyone around me was playing video games. I was like, yeah, you guys are this is like a fad. Like, I'm not really into that. I'm going to do my own thing over here with Legos and drawing. I'm good.
I'll show you.
Like, I remember not playing video games at friends' houses because I didn't get them. Wasn't into them yet. But I eventually, came around. I got better. But like I said, for whatever reason, I don't remember us having a Super Nintendo when I was young. But we did eventually get a Nintendo 64, which was awesome. I love that system. And then after that, we got the PlayStation 1, which somehow had Twisted Metal 1 inside the game system when we bought it. I don't know if that was refurbished or... I don't remember that being part of the deal, but it was inside the system when we opened it up. I'm like, oh, we got a free game. Sweet.
Cool.
So I played the heck out of that game.
That's funny.
Yeah. I did have a Game Boy Adventure. I think before I got the 64, I had a Game Boy Color. It played lots of Pokemon. I love the Pokemon games on there.
That's something I failed to mention in mine.
Yeah.
All about that game.
Oh, yeah. Back in one of our early episodes, we talk about kind of just our own stories about nerdiness, and Angela's a big part of hers is that.
Yeah, I was addicted to Pokemon as a kid.
Yes,
that's right.
I
I blocked all that out early.
They were so rewarding and just a great escape. I love those games.
Yeah.
So lots of Game Boy playing. I actually don't really remember playing any other games other than play. Almost said Playboy. I don't remember playing. Yeah, I don't remember playing any other games on my Game Boy other than Pokemon. So
yeah.
But I did quite a bit of PC gaming actually, and my brothers and I, we really loved the sim games. So we had SimCity and Sim Tower, both of which were super fun and at times kind of comedic, but mostly just a great challenge for your brain. We had other games like Populous, Total Annihilation, Pharaoh is like an Egyptian kind of empire building game, and later, kind of like in middle school to high school days, I got into emulators. So that was a lot of fun. I was able to play the old games that I never got to play or never even knew about, when I wasn't into gaming as a kid. So I played through some classical RPGs and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. So, and going into high school days, I did a lot of PS1, a lot of 64 gaming. I really liked, puzzle games, some strategy games, and a lot of role-playing RPGs. So, because I was into anime, so there's a lot of... I felt like at that time, like RPGs were strictly anime. Like that almost meant it was an anime game.
Yeah, but almost.
Nowadays it's different. There's a lot more.
Yeah, you got the Elder Scrolls and all that jazz, Fallout.
Yeah, there's a lot of fantasy, and there's also like just other games that are role playing, but they're not related to anything anime or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much my my take as far as growing up. Oh, and then of course, like somewhat recently, I got back into emulators because my uncle bought me or he didn't buy me. He upgraded to a PS4, so he gave me his PS3 for free.
Nice.
Just like we were chatting one night, he was just bewildered at the fact that I don't play any video games anymore, and I haven't for years. I just don't have time. I did have a system, and for a long time, we didn't even have a TV in our house. So he just felt bad for me as a fellow nerd. So he literally sent me his PS3, and I was like, "This is amazing! You didn't have to do this. This is so cool." And he gave me like 4 or 5 games, and
Nice.
I said, "But we don't even have a TV." So he bought me like this cheap little TV.
Oh my gosh, that's
like a
cool.
little 20-inch screen. They're like $100 now. The TVs are so cheap. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was amazing. So we had this little baby TV, and I think it was 24-inch. So we played a little bit of that, and I still just didn't have time and the energy or the focus to like get committed to a game. I mean, he got me Dragon Age 2 and Mass Effect, and those are very engaging, like very involved games. And I really tried to play them, but I just couldn't keep it up, unfortunately.
Oh man, I'm surprised you couldn't get into Mass Effect.
I know, yeah, that's like right up my alley. But I just didn't. And, so now currently our PlayStation 3 is a DVD player for Redbox.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of sad. I feel bad. But I realized the controller for the PS3 is a USB cord, connector. So I'm thinking, I wonder if I could plug this into my laptop and use this with an emulator, and it worked. So I got back into, I had another kick into video games. And what I did was, I got the PSP emulator, and I played old PS1 games that had been ported over to PSP, and they kind of had been a little bit upgraded. Graphics and stuff have been changed just slightly. So I played a few of my favorite old games like Twisted Metal. I played some RPGs and stuff that I missed, and did a little bit of 64 emulator too. I even got a 64 emulator on my phone. Did you know they make that?
What?
Yeah,
No.
you can get a PlayStation 1, probably PlayStation 2, and 64 emulators on your phone and play old games.
That blows my mind.
It's not
I
easy.
love the future.
I know, right? Isn't it amazing? My brother has I think it's a Raspberry Pi device that he bought on Amazon for like $20-$30, and it has multiple game systems as emulators, and it has like thousands of games stored inside of it.
Wow.
So you just
I
plug
love
it in.
raspberries.
He just plugs it into his TV with HDMI. He has a Bluetooth controller, and boom, he can play almost any game that's been made in the past.
Oh, that's
Pretty
pretty
awesome.
cool.
So there you go.
I'll
That's
have
my
to
story.
ask him how he did all that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, right. I'm sure he'll be willing to share that. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice. It's a pretty good story. Not bad. Not bad. All right. I guess with that, let's go ahead and talk about our top 3 favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
If you can really have a list like that's
It's
that
so
narrowed
hard.
down. It's a hard decision to even just narrow it down.
It's like picking your favorite kids, It's just, you got to leave someone out.
All right. I guess I'll go ahead and start. For my number 3, I guess I'll choose Uncharted 2.
Cool.
And do you guys know anything about the Uncharted series?
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's an RPG that's not anime.
Yeah, it's not even an RPG, honestly.
okay.
Yeah, it's an action-adventure platformer and a third-person shooter.
Oh,
And it's-
okay.
Yeah, and like Nate said, it's heavily based on the Indiana Jones franchise. Basically you're playing as Indiana Jones. Maybe he, but his name is Nathan Drake.
Which is
And
so
he's-
cool when I play because my name's Nathan. They're like, Nathan, hurry. I'm like, I'm coming.
Okay.
That's so funny. Yeah, supposedly Nathan Drake is a descendant of the explorer Sir Francis Drake. And
Nice.
that's kind of like the kickoff for the very first game, and that he's trying to find like some lost city that Drake was trying to find, the El Dorado. He was trying to find that.
Cool.
But in Uncharted 2, I don't want to give away too much of the main plot of that, but main plot is they must stop Russian bad guy from drinking from the Tree of Life in Shambhala.
I like
think his
that
name
Russian
was-
impersonation.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think the guy's name was Lazarovich, something like that.
Of course.
So anyways, yeah, the game has so many cool action set pieces. Like the game starts off with you're hanging off of a train that is like hanging off of a mountainside, and you have to climb up through the train to try to get back onto the mountain, and the train's like slowly slipping down off the mountainside. So that was like the coolest way to ever kick off a game. Like you don't know what the heck is happening at all. You're just there, and then they kind of backpedal it and give some backstory on like all the events that happened prior to that. But there's like some other really cool things, like outrunning a truck like barreling after you, and you're trying to shoot behind you to try to like blow out the tires. It's just that game is so amazing.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's such a great game.
For anybody that's listening, including us, if you haven't played, you should play the whole series. It's a lot of fun.
So it's like National Treasure with Indiana Jones in it.
Kind of, yeah. And there's like puzzle solving, like trying to decode like secret messages and try to unlock like hidden tombs, etc., stuff like that.
It's like an action brain game, basically.
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, and it's really easy to get access to it now. Like it was originally the second game came out in 2009. It was first released on the PS3, but then they remastered the entire trilogy to be on the PS4, so you can get it all in one bundle with a little bit updated graphics.
And it's beautiful. I've seen the cinema scenes and the gameplay. It just looks so good.
Yeah, the colors and the environments are very vibrant. It's not one of those action games where everything's just brown.
Right.
And I'm very glad that we've kind of moved away from that, like back in the early to mid 2000s. Mm-hmm. That was definitely a big trope with shooter games, but this one is very beautiful. And all the characters, the dialogue is great, the personalities are great. The animations are really great because they actually relied on motion capture technology to capture all the animations. They had the actors suit up and they were delivering their lines and moving around, and all that was transferred into the game. So it's very full of life. All those games are. So highly recommend.
Better as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think two is a high point. I haven't played Uncharted 4 or the spinoff with Chloe. I forget what that game is called, Lost Legacy or something. I don't know, but
I think I'll need to go bootleg and get a PS4 emulator and play that.
Oh my gosh!
I think you'll for like knowing the kind of stuff you're in. I think like I highly recommend that you play it because I think you'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I would. And those games aren't like very long either. So with your busy schedule, I mean, I think it's only about maybe 6 to 8 hours per game, and they're still all on PS3, so you could still play them. You don't need the remaster. And when I bought them, I got them pretty cheap too, like about $15-$20. So
cool
for each of them. But yeah, highly recommend. Alrighty, Nate, what's your number 3?
So my third game would be called Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Now, this was an awesome game. It's basically a super advanced stealth game. And the object of it, just every mission you do, you have to be stealth. And if you get noticed or exposed, basically, pretty much the game's over. Because there's so much infantry that comes that there's just too much to handle and you don't have all that type of equipment. But it was released in 2015, September 1. And I think I have played that for a good solid 2 years. And then I finally traded it in because I could not beat the dumb, silly game. But I really enjoyed it. Like the detail that they did, the characters. I mean, like even to the smallest thing, like eye patches, like had like, there's a guy in the game that I won't give anything away for those who don't know what I'm talking about. There's a guy in the game where he lost an eye. And the eye patch, like the simple detail, like all the close-ups, it could look kind of cheesy. But when they do cutscenes, it looks the same as what the game actually looks like. And so I was really like appreciating this game. Yeah. Of course, I just joked and said the game actually got hard, and I never ended up finishing it. But I think some time has come by where I will want to. And when they released it, it was on all platforms. So I've played it on the PC and PlayStation, and I played it on Xbox One, I think the original Xbox. And I think I played there the longest.
And even I've played Metal Gear Solid. I played the original on PlayStation 1.
I've yet to delve into that series, but I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I guess, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm not really into the whole, like, creepy, zombie, nasty stuff. And so there was some of that, like, there were monsters and stuff to a certain point. And, I mean, I was so involved in the game that I was like, it's just a little bit of monster, whatever. But it was a lot of fun. But it was the kind of game that I had so much fun that I would redo missions like over and over and over and over. Because it's basically cool. Like a game of like the decision you make is the way it will play out for that mission. So if you're completely quiet, you can finish the game. But if you go loud, then, it basically they put the option in your hands. So they went into some really like long, detailed like storyline that wasn't so detailed that it hurt your head, but it was a lot of like components that played a part of the game.
Yeah.
Like you had your own ship, your own franchise, you built up stuff, you recruited people. So you're at the same time you're completing missions and getting stuff. You're also building like I guess to make life easier, building like a empire.
That's
and basically,
cool.
and so over time you could lose people. Like you can send them on missions, and if they die, they're gone. Like in real life, they don't just respawn.
Huh.
Not only was it a stealth game, it was a strategy game, it was a building game. It was basically everything. A lot like Uncharted, where they went into like the details and the puzzle solving and the missions and the quiet, and you had to find information to be able to complete the next part of a mission. I'm gonna be honest, that's one game I got really addicted to because like the outcome, it was shooting and outcomes, and so I was thoroughly enjoyed it. The next one that came after, I haven't even touched, and that's the only Metal Gear I've ever played. So I really, really, really like Metal Gear.
Ooh, you should go back and further into the series and see if you like the early ones, because those are supposed to be like awesome.
Didn't they bring in like an alternate universe storyline into that game universe?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know which one, but
it seems a little too much to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe they did an alternate universe, but Kojima, like the production, so he was part of another franchise and he branched off and made his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically were saying that his production line was like the top of the top, but then they started adding like what you should just said, like alternate universes and different stuff. So it got real weird after a while, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not really into the whole like weird part. So like after Phantom Pain, they came out with another one that had like a survival zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that game seems to not be getting the best reception. So
yeah, it's too bad. Yeah. It's too bad when a really great game has ends up having a long run with franchise, which is cool, but they just feel like they keep having to up the ante with new ones, and they start doing new stuff. It's like, I don't know what just happened with this game's franchise itself.
Yeah, so that's my third. I mean, it's hard to pick, like Daniel was saying, it's like trying to pick children or your favorite food, but I'm going to have to go with my number 3 is Metal Gear Solid, The Phantom Pain.
Well, my number 3 is Zelda Ocarina of Time on Nintendo 64.
Ooh, classic.
I love this game. Like, I spent so many hours in this game, and one of the things that I remembered that I really enjoyed about it was that there wasn't pressure to go and do stuff. And maybe that's why they changed it with the Majora's Mask. It's like you have to do stuff on a time base, but Ocarina of Time was so different. You could just spend time having fun in this world.
Yeah.
You could go to the water or to the Gorons or to ride the horse or fish.
Yeah.
And you could do these side things, which did have, rewards to some amount, but you did have to go do other stuff at that time. So that was nice. It was relaxed. It was kind of one of the very first sandbox kind of games, I think, where it's just an open world. So it was really fun. Of course, the story was phenomenal. At the time, the graphics were really, really pretty and nice. And the music was awesome. I just love the music. Good. I also really like the world building. Like, you just got the sense of this bigger world of Hyrule, and there's a long past, and there's something coming in the future, and you don't quite know what's going to happen next. The accessories were really cool. You could pick up the grappling hook, which I loved. Different types of weapons, different versions of weapons. Things like that. The one thing that I forgot about that I was reminded when I was looking up this game again was that there is a time jump in the game. You got old and you could go back young again. You remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like,
that's like a really big mechanic in that game.
Yeah, I just kind of blanked that out, forgot about it. But like when you're young, you can actually plant seeds that will grow, and later when you're old, you have full-grown plants that have some benefit. And that's just a really creative idea that I have not really seen, at least in that time. I hadn't seen in a lot of games.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time was definitely very revolutionary for its time.
Yeah, it was incredible. And something interesting that maybe you guys didn't know about this was that at the time that the game cartridge that hosted the Zelda of Ocarina of Time was the biggest cartridge as far as memory that Nintendo had ever made. It had 32 megabytes.
Ooh.
Yeah, right.
32 whole megabytes.
Whoa, what are we going to do with all that space? Yeah, so that was huge. There was a side note, but if we're talking about space of game cartridges, one of my other all-time favorites, it's not on this list, but one that I really enjoyed was Zero G. It was a futuristic motorcycle racing game. And that entire game is 6 megabytes.
Wow.
You can buy a song off iTunes that is 6 megabytes. But
Wow.
this game was 6 megabytes and brought us hours and hours of joy. This is crazy.
How though?
Simpler times back then.
They had constraints and limitations they had to stay inside of, and they did it with low polygon graphics, MIDI music,
That's crazy.
reusing textures, and
Yeah.
pretty creative stuff. So that's my number 3, Ocarina of Time.
Nice. That's a good one. Let's see. I think for my number 2, it's also like a sequel in a franchise, but my number 2 is Batman Arkham City.
Sweet.
I asked this question before, but like, have you guys played any of the Batman Arkham games?
I played the first one and the third one. I didn't
play City?
I never got, leave me alone. I was trying to get it, but I like the third one the best. So, and then I think, oh no, I take that back. I played 3 of 4. I'm sorry. I got one as a Christmas present.
Man, you missed out on the good ones. All right. Well, Batman Arkham City is a big open world action adventure / stealth game. You play as freaking Batman and you feel like Batman throughout the entire game. It is so much fun. Let's see. Basically, the entire plot is that the mayor of Gotham, Quincy Sharp, decides that Arkham Asylum and Blackgate Penitentiary are not suitable enough to keep all like the inmates of Gotham like under control, I believe. So he sections off like some of the slums of Gotham and puts all the inmates in there and walls them off.
What could
and
possibly
creates
go wrong?
Arkham City. I know. So they're like saying all the inmates are free to do whatever they want as long as they don't try to get out. So
Oh my gosh.
pure
Nice.
chaos inside. And Bruce Wayne is openly against Arkham City. He thinks it's a terrible idea. So during like a press conference, he has like speaking out against it. Hugo Strange ends up detaining him, I believe, because Hugo Strange is behind like the moderation of Arkham City, if I recall correctly. So he arrests Bruce Wayne, throws him in there into Arkham City, and he ends up getting like his Batman gear from Alfred and such, and he's trying to like figure out like what is going down like with Hugo Strange. He's got some sort of Protocol 10 that's gonna go down, and who knows what's gonna happen. So yeah, there's a lot of shady, crazy things going on. Yeah, they have a lot of the old classic Batman villains in there that you can fight against. They got Two-Face, they've got the Penguin, Joker shows up, of course.
Nice.
Bane.
Are there any
Mr.
other
Freeze.
hero tie-ins?
There is, they have Catwoman missions available to play if you have like a certain version of the game. I think on PC, or if you buy any of the Game of the Year console editions that came out, which is what I ended up playing. And playing a Catwoman is fun. Like her missions are very brief, but they're there and they're really cool.
I just have to highlight that any of the Batman games, Mark Hamill did an awesome Joker.
Oh yeah, they got the original voice actors for Batman and Joker from Batman the Animated Series. So they got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and they both do phenomenal jobs.
They did awesome.
Yeah, because they were also, in the first game, Batman Arkham Asylum. And that game is great too, but Arkham City kind of pushes the envelope a little bit more, which is why I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mark Hamill's Joker is my absolute favorite Joker of all time. So playing through those games and hearing his dialogue and his delivery is such a treat for me. I absolutely love it.
I wish Mark Hamill was younger. I know that doesn't work out, but I wish I could like shift time and actually put him in the DC universe we have now as a younger Hamill. And see what he looked like dressed up in the makeup and acting and be like on a like actual movie. I wonder what that would have been like.
That would be interesting. I'm very curious to know how that would have been. But anyways, like the combat in the game is insanely fun. They have like this sort of free flow combat style, I think is what they call it, where you just like basically wail on enemies like melee combat, and you're encouraged to do like all these different kinds of moves and build up combos so you can like stun enemies with your cape and you can counter them. Just straight up, punch the crap out of them. You can flip over them. You can like pull out guns with your bat claw and all kinds of.
I think I enjoyed the Batman fighting when he grabbed a pole. Like he took it from one of the goons and he started beating with them. You hear the
you can disarm people and just straight up beat them with their own weapons.
And you don't feel bad because they're all evil bad people.
I know. He doesn't kill anyone though, but he will mess them up insanely.
No, he's not. He doesn't play the older Ben Affleck where he's more deadly and doesn't mind.
No, he doesn't
people,
just straight up like shoot everyone with a gun.
But I laugh. I'm put it this way: the first time I ever played Batman, I've never played before. I'm here fighting these goons, and after like 10 minutes of playing, I'm really hooked, and he grabs this pole out of his hand, punches him in the face, and just like starts wailing on him. I lost it. I laughed so hard.
That's hilarious.
I've always seen Batman just kind of doing the job, getting through, making him quiet, choking him out, stuff like that. But to actually see him grab the weapon and use it against him, I laughed. So
do they have shark repellent? Is there shark repellent in that game?
Oh, I don't believe so. No, that would be amazing. No, but outside of like the melee combat, there's also sections of the game that are very stealth based, because sometimes you'll go in like in this big area where there's a lot of armed goons, and you can't take them on. They will shoot you down and kill you.
They're very well trained guns for hire.
Yeah,
they're very well trained. Like they don't miss.
No, they're really accurate. Once they see you, they will start shooting. Like your only way to get out of there is like drop a smoke pellet and like get the heck out of there. But yeah, it's super fun. You really encourage to do like stealthy takedowns of these people. Like a lot of the times, the areas that you're doing these stealth missions, and they have like gargoyles you can perch on from above, and you can like hang off of them and like swoop people up as they come, like walk beneath you.
That's awesome.
Hang them down from the gargoyles, and then like the other goons will come running to see what happened, and then they'll see the guy like hanging upside down, and they'll get freaked out. And it's so funny because as like the levels goes on and you're like taking out more and more people, like the condition of like all the goons like starts changing. Like they'll go from calm to like starting to get nervous, and like their heart rate will go up, and they start getting more skittish. And then if like there's one guy left, he'll be like straight up terrified, and he'll like whirl around all crazy like, and like, where are you? I know you're here, and start yelling and freak out. And like at that point, if you drop down like right in front of him, he'll get like freaked out and like start backing away.
This is really satisfying.
It is really fun.
It does sound fun.
If you ever want to feel like Batman, please play this game. It is so great, and it's really easy to get access to it now. Like it first originally came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360, and I think PC and OS X, but then it ended up eventually getting like a Wii U edition, and then they remastered it for PS4 and Xbox One. So yeah,
I can't wait for a Batman game where you can do VR.
I think they actually came out with some sort of Arkham Knight VR edition.
Ooh.
Get some neck injuries looking around real quick.
Yeah. Oh god. Oh no.
I don't know how that even works, but yeah, that's interesting. So
I love that game.
Oh yeah, and also I think it's a fun little fact to know that the developer who made the Batman Arkham games, this is like one of the very first like video game series they ever made. Batman Arkham Asylum, the very first game in the series, that was their second game that they ever made. The first one was just like some first person shooter that did kind of mediocrely. It was like Urban Chaos Riot Response. I've never heard of it. So it's just crazy that some developer like goes from making some mediocre first person shooter and then makes Batman Arkham Asylum, and it's like one of the most like the greatest like superhero game that had come out thus far. And then they made Batman Arkham City, which just even above that. It's amazing to me.
You got some good skill on that team.
I know.
Yeah. My number 2. I'm so sorry, guys. Most of mine are probably going to be like the first person shooter. But this one's a little bit different. This is a Ubisoft game called it's the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon. Ooh. Now, I know. I've just been talking about war, but these are some of it's hard to pick my favorite because I have a whole bunch of genres of war, sports. I really didn't get into the whole fantasy or zombie monster stuff. So, but Ubisoft described it as one of the biggest worldwide like games that you can play, like the open map in 2017.
Wow.
And I played that game, and it's basically the storyline is you are going against the Mexican cartel, and I don't know exactly where we are, but it looks like Mexico or parts of New Mexico, that if you've ever seen any landscapes. And basically you choose how the story goes. I mean, you can go do missions in different parts of the section, but it's a huge map. And what's fun about this is as time goes on, they do upgrades and bugs fix and all that fun stuff. You can play with friends. It's multiplayer. But over time, it sounds traditional. It's fun. But what was fun is they actually started adding these modes in there where they actually added what's called literally it is him, sounds like him, and it's creepy as heck, the Predator. And there's a section in there where it's like it's intense. Like it's not like intense scary, but like intense like where did he go? and it's dark and it's raining and you're in the forest and you can hear him off in the distance and all of a sudden he appears behind you and he shoots at you. But it is intense. He's huge too. And so I like this game. It's different. It's a different pace. Again, back with the team building, totally different story about the cartel. And there's like all these ex-military and current military people just in there taking over and fixing like all the wrongs and making them rights. And then they added all these fun mods like what I was just talking about, Predator. But it's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I mean, it came out last year and I've been playing ever since. And it's a third-person shooter. And so, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Tom Clancy. I have a whole bunch of his games. Yeah, so that's my number 2.
Cool, fun.
Cool.
Well, I'm going to take out back to the 90s, where all my games reside, apparently, because I'm an old guy and I haven't played anything
that old.
Back when the games were actually good, in the 90s. I'm kidding.
Excuse me.
Back when you went through all the dial tones up.
That's fighting
when you
talk
turned
right
on the
there.
games.
Oh my gosh.
You had to wait for the game system to boot up.
Right.
So my second favorite game is Total Annihilation, and this is a PC game. It's a military strategy, future sci-fi, really fun, very addictive. It's one of those games you can just keep playing. Like you never, I mean, you can get tired of it, I guess, if you play it too much, which I did multiple times, but and then I come back to it. But it's a very it has a lot of playability. You could just keep playing. There's always new challenges and new things you can get better at. So this is basically the story of it is there in the far, far future, there's a group of humans called the Core, which is a very advanced human civilization that's all peaceful and balanced and good. Everyone's happy, and they span thousands of planets, really big, spanning human civilization. But they invent something called patterning, which is basically you take the human consciousness and you put it into a machine, which basically means you can live forever and you can upgrade and enhance your mental abilities. But the big issue is eternal life with this. But a minority of the humans basically don't want this, and they're against this law that's being passed that you have to get patterned. So they rebel, and they're called ARM, A-R-M. So there's the Core, which is, everyone is going into machines. They're copying their human consciousness onto chips. Then there's ARM, which is fighting against them, and voila, they have an intergalactic war, which apparently, according to the story, spans 4,000 years.
Oh my. Long war.
That's the setup, and that's the intro of the game, which is an awesome intro. You definitely check it out on YouTube when you can.
Yeah.
Lots of cool CGI and stuff. So the game itself is you can choose to be Core or ARM, and you're fighting in a military setup on various planets against the other side. So it's really fun. So you control the commander, which is like the main head honcho of your side, and the commander can build things. He can build guns. He can build factories that build tanks and things like that. So you kind of spread out. You build a base. You build other units that can also build things. And you have to mine resources from your planets that you land on, and maybe that planet doesn't have good metal or doesn't have good energy, and you struggle. And so you have to be real creative, and you have to, choose what's most important. And then eventually the other side's going to find your base, and, you're in a battle. So really fun. Some of the cool things about this game was that there have been people modding this game and hacking it ever since it came out in 1997. So there's still very active forums and probably Facebook groups now devoted to this game where you can find, new units that people have made, new levels and planets and new weapons and things like that. People have even made entire new factions. So other than Core and ARM, you can now be aliens, or you can be this, or you can be that. Added a lot of fun flair to the game to keep it interesting. The soundtrack is amazing. Just the soundtrack for this game alone is just so perfect for sci-fi, for a cold, dead universe, and you're just fighting to survive. It's just so good. It's actual orchestration, and
nice.
Really stands out among games still today. It's a great soundtrack. You can get this game on GOG.com for $10, which I did, and got re-addicted to it.
Oh, cool.
So very
you know
fun.
how big
That's
the
awesome.
download file is?
Well, originally when you bought it, it was 2 CDs worth.
Oh, wow.
So I think actually, if I remember right, I think the file is about 1 gig.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's manageable. I mean, I downloaded and played it on my PC, no problem. Super fun.
Is it kind of one of those games that you have to have like a high graphics card because
No.
Oh,
No, this
good.
came out in
Okay.
97, so it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
easy.
I like it sounds intriguing, so I actually want
Yes.
to download it after this. So
at the time this game came out, Red Alert was super huge. That was a really popular RTS game, kind of futuristic, similar to this. And so I feel like a lot of people, if they remember anything of the 90s and RTS, it was that. But it makes me sad when a lot of people don't know about this game because it was so great and so unique. And and there's also online. I did that one time. I got totally smoked by this guy, of course, because there's people that have been playing for years and they're like professionals. But you can play online and multiplayer, which is super fun. Get all your friends on there and just have a 4-way sci-fi battle. It's awesome.
So cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
We should all do it sometime. It'd be great.
We should totally do that.
Maybe.
You know what? We should just for like a timestamp, we should all totally do that and record our audio and then blend it together.
Oh, well, trust me, games can go on for hours and hours.
Well, I'm sure we'll have to come to a point where we're like, well, we are not very good at this game, guys. So thanks for joining. And
We'll set a limit. We'll set a time limit, 1 hour, and then you have to.
Yeah, we could do a
should
special
totally do
on
it.
my gaming channel or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be fun. Okay, we're coming down to our number one favorites. How exciting is this? All right. So my number one is a game, of course, that I absolutely love and adore, and it'd be super hard for any other game to take its place, I think. And I think it's one that you guys are not aware of whatsoever, probably. The game is called Okami, and it is one of those games that fits my favorite kind of games description, where it has a great story and a fantastic art style. Now, the game is like itself, its plot and its setting is based on Japanese folklore, so it's pretty unique in that regard.
Cool.
Basically, the whole game is like you're playing as like a wolf deity almost.
That's cool.
She's like the sun god or something like that, and she's had all of her power like stripped away. Her powers used to be like she could control elements like lightning and rain, fire, etc., like that. But what's cool about it is that she has like a tool with her called the celestial brush, and it's actually like supposed to be her tail, like with dipped in ink, and she can like paint different effects into the world. And that's what I really love about it, because they focus on like drawing stuff into existence as a gameplay mechanic.
I see a connection with you.
I know. It's hard to imagine why I would like a game like this. But it is super fun and super creative. And like a lot of the world, the world itself is like ancient Japan. They call it Nippon, but it's just Japan, basically. And a big, like, great demon god named Orochi comes in and just basically makes waves with almost the entire world. He's like a great big...
It sounds like his name sounds like food. Doesn't sound that intimidating,
Orochi.
but go ahead. Sounds like a roach. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's fine. He's like a big, I don't know, like snake demon creature. He's like 8 snake heads or whatever it is
Whoa.
coming out of his body. Yeah, he's pretty intense.
I'm sure he's a lot of fun at parties.
I know, right? So anyway, the whole world is basically just laid barren. There's like no vegetation, etc., like that. So you come into the picture as like the sun god who's just been recently reawakened, but you have like no power to you. So you go about and you're trying to reawaken these what do they call it? Like guardian trees and stuff. Like when you bloom them, you can like bloom the trees, like drawing a circle around them, and it makes it all come to life. And these trees can like bring back like the life and fauna of like different areas and and such like that. So you get like this awesome cutscene of like everything like blooming to life. Everything like black is like grass is like sprouting up, flowers, etc. Big bursts of color. Fountains and rivers are just like flowing out of nothing and streaming down through the like barren trenches, and like all the animals come out. And it's so cute and it's so creative, and you can do different things to manipulate your environment. Like you can make wind gusts happen or make rain fall down.
Cool. That sounds fun. What system is it on?
It first originally came out on the PS2, and then it got re-released on the Wii, because of course it makes sense to be able to draw stuff with like the Wii remote controls. And then HD versions got released for the PS3 and the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and I think the Switch. I don't know if it's come out yet, but it's been announced for sure.
Cool.
But what's really cool about it is like you can fight like different kind of like demon creatures throughout the world, and like you can fight them with your brush technique. So you can like draw a line through them and it like slashes through them, or you can like draw a swirl to make like a big bursts of wind happen and like blow them away,
Cool.
or if there's like any like demons that have like fire on
so
them.
Asian. That's like such an Asian. I feel like a concept and idea. That's really
It
cool.
is, and like
Eastern.
and like I failed to mention like the art style in that game is like based heavily on a type of Asian painting called sumie, I think is what it's called. Like the heavy black ink illustrations where everything's like outlined, heavy black ink, and all the colors look like they're painted on with watercolor, and it's cell shaded, and even like it even looks like the whole game is like painted on like paper texture. So
Cool.
It's got like really cool
That's different.
aesthetic to it. But yeah, it's just so much fun to play, and I highly recommend.
I feel like every few years there's a game that comes out that's just totally different. It doesn't follow any trends, and it doesn't ever really get copied because it's just unique and cool. And a lot of them are kind of artistic or musical,
Right?
like that. And that sounds like one of those games.
Yeah, I really like those type of games. And this game is also like very Legend of Zelda based, as I kind of failed to mention. Like you said earlier, for Ocarina of Time, it's very open world. There's different areas that you can go to, different like items you can collect, and different side missions and things you can do. Like in Zelda, how they have like their dungeons. There's dungeons in Okami. You can get like in Zelda how you get like a new piece of equipment that allows you to access like a different new areas. Okami's like equipment that you get isn't really equipment, it's the brush technique, so you get like a new brush technique after the end of every dungeon. And what's cool about the techniques is that you use them all like continuously throughout the game. It's not like Zelda where you'll only use like this new piece of equipment in like this dungeon and that's it. So it's got that going for it. Makes it
Cool.
a lot of fun. Highly recommend anybody who's like into any sort of like Japanese stuff or is very artistic. Check this game out. It is a lot of fun.
Awesome.
All right. What about you, Nate? What's your number one?
So my number one, I begin with the War Battlefield. Now this originally came out. Now this is they have like 11 games, and it originally came out in September 10th, 2002, and the last game they released was last year of 2017. But they're about to release their number
5.
Well,
That's what they've been teasing at E3.
Yeah, I know. But I think they're going to be releasing it sometime, hopefully, I hope this year, but I think someone told me that it's going to be the beginning of next year, which makes me sad.
I forget if they show the release date or not. I don't know.
But I love this game. I remember playing it like the first one in 2002 is the Battlefield 1942, and I remember thinking like, what is this? Because I'm a huge like Time Crisis fan, like in the arcade, and it looks similar to that, but it was in a controller on a console. I would play, and I think I played it for the original Xbox for a little bit, and then as I moved on, Battlefield 3, and I have played that game so much. I love it. I think it's kind of scary that it's a first-person shooter, and then recently in the last couple months, my dad and I have been going shooting, and I'm surprised. I mean, I've been shooting quite a lot in my lifetime in reality, but it's funny how I remember not being that great when I was good with some, but not all, and I would hit the spot like 7 out of 10 times, but recently we've been going shooting, and I've been playing a lot of war game, Battlefield, and it's scary to see that in your hand in a console on a screen it trains you how to shoot a gun in real life. And I think the first time I shot a gun in a while, it was a shotgun, and they threw up clay, and they're like, and I was like, pull, and I went boom, and I hit it, and I was like, wait, what? And then everybody else had kind of missed, and then but yeah, so it's 16 years that they've been going or so. Wow. And I haven't played all the games. Now that's too many games to play, but I love the series and I love the franchise, and DICE is the company, and they have done such a good job that they actually got permission from Lucasfilms to make the Battlefront 1 and 2. Yes, thank you so much for taking what I love and now adding the theme of what I love and making a game. I appreciate you. You're awesome, and I have played both. And I currently don't own the second one, but the first one is really, really good, really well done. The story, it's not, which makes me sad, is the first one that DICE made. I think it was a tester because it wasn't a story. It was more of like a multiplayer. But the second one I don't own, but it's more of a story. So I'm really looking forward to it. But Battlefield, DICE, the people that make the game are awesome. I love it. I've been playing it for many, many years. And I think if I had to recommend any kind of war game, I love Call of Duty, but not really at the same time. But Battlefield, you can shoot, you can fly, you can drive and strategize, capture the flag, as much as you want to do for as long as you want to do. And they have some of the biggest maps for war games right now. Well, at least they did. And then they vary off into the World War. I think the next one coming out is World War II, so that's exciting. And so, yeah, that's my number one. And it was hard to choose number one because I have so many other games that I really enjoy. So, but yeah, Battlefield is where it is at for me for my number one.
So you like dice games?
Yes, I do very much.
One might say deceptively.
That's so funny.
Yes, I do very much.
Cool. Sounds like they know what they're doing, and they found a good specialty.
Yeah, and I thought they were doing good, and then they collaborated with Lucasfilms, and I was like, thank you. Thank you so much.
That's a good team up. I remember hearing about that. All right, well, my number one came out in 1999.
Oh, boy. We're so close to 2000.
I feel like we found you like back in the 90s, and we just brought you up to speed.
Wow, guys, this future world is so cool, but where's all the flying cars?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm so disappointed in everyone. So yeah, this game is called Star Ocean 2. The first one came out in SNES, and I think it was called Star Ocean like First Arrival or something like that. It was only released in Japan. So when Star Ocean 2 came out in America, it was kind of like, what? Well, where's number one? A little confusing. But it is definitely an anime RPGs through and through. It's also interesting because it's a sci-fi, but it's also got fantasy and magic in it, which is really fun. There's in this universe, there's kind of like a form of magic on this planet that the guy crash lands on, and it's legitimately magic. Like there's like spells and enchanting and stuff like that. But there's also like energy weapons and other things in the same world. There's even a huge laser cannon that uses magic. It's really cool. So this is a good space opera story where like the main character Claude is the son of a military leader, and he touches this artifact he shouldn't have touched when they're out on like this mission, and he gets teleported to another planet, and so he's lost and kind of gets tangled up in this bigger story on this planet that he lands on, and ends up basically just saving the planet with another team of people. So this is one of those RPGs where you can choose different people to be in your team. And I think there's 13 characters in the new updated version they did for PSP. There's 13 total people you can choose or not choose. You can only have like 4 of them at a time. And
that's crazy.
And based on the decisions you make in the game, they might hook up with one of the other characters, or they might hook up with someone else, or they might leave. So there's a lot of different variations. There's actually 100 different endings, 100 different possible endings in the very end, which is really fun.
That's crazy. 100.
Yeah, and on top of that, within the game, you can actually make unique items. So you can combine, mithril with a silver sword and get like, a even better sword than you had before. Or it might turn out to be a flop and you just get a stone. It's kind of fun. There's a little bit of a gamble, but there are some tricks you can learn to make good items. There's lots of different items you can get in this game. I think there's over 10,000. There's almost 10,000 items total. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And so it's fun. There's a lot of really good character development, and there's some cool cinema scenes in between, the major levels of the game. The fight system was super cool. I love the fight system because at the time this game was out, Final Fantasy VII was like the big thing, and I never really liked Final Fantasy VII, but it's probably because I played this game first. So, back at that time, fight systems in games was like Pokemon. You just took turns. And I think Final Fantasy was the same, was FF7 at least. And that was the stupidest thing to me. I was like, really? What is this, like the American Revolution? Like we're taking turns to shoot at each other and being all polite and taking turns? Like, no, that's not how fight things work. But what I love about this game was that it was free-for-all. So you were in this 3D scene where you could go up, down, left, or right in 3D space, and you could attack whenever you wanted. You could run away from things. You could use spells, and your other 4 team members or your other 3 members that were on your team were similar. They were being controlled by AI, and they were running around and attacking, as fast as they could. And I just really liked that. The fighting was really fun.
That's cool.
And when you got new weapons and new techniques, you could use those in the fighting world, and it was super cool. And then it would go back out to, the pseudo 3D kind of walking around mode.
That's cool.
But the story was what really got me. I really love the story. Very big and very, very epic. So love that game.
All right, that is a wrap up on our favorite games list. Before we close out the episode, I'd just like to do a little plug here. Say that I started a gaming channel on YouTube recently, and it is called Doodlebrock. DOODLEBROCK. And just recently posted my very first video, and it's a video I did with Nate, actually. We went through an online co-op puzzle game that we downloaded on Steam, and it's about an hour-long video. So if you like to see us try to communicate effectively and get through puzzles, definitely check it out. It is a little bit of a rough and interesting ride.
It's a puzzle game, but we're in two separate areas. So we're kind of what looks like a castle. So I was the librarian, and you better have updated library cards.
Were you a sexy librarian, though?
I don't know. I didn't get to explore what I could be in that game. So
we don't know what we look like under our parkas, so you never know.
But it was fun. It was definitely. I think the reason I think it became such a long game is because it was definitely stretching our brain a lot. Mm-hmm. At least mine.
Sounds like a good puzzle. Maybe just Nate's.
Yeah.
So our listeners can find that on your YouTube channel. And what is that again? How can they find you?
Find me, just search Doodlebrock on YouTube and you'll find my channel.
Cool. I also have YouTube actually for my photography stuff, like educational and special effects and just kind of fun things.
Which is so good. Because you do lightsaber effects, and I'm like, wow, I feel stupid. I should have done that on all my other pictures.
Yeah, if you want to learn to do some of the things that I do in my work, whether it's editing or special effects, I have a few tutorial videos on there that show how I do things. So, and that you just search on YouTube, Daniel Grove Photo, and you'll find me there. Which
is definitely a cool YouTube channel. You guys should definitely check it out. I'm always bugging him. I'm like, put more out because I want to know how you did that. And he's like, yeah, no. I'm like, please.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. It was a lot of fun finally touching on one of the big nerdy topics that we have not touched on before, video games. So if you like this episode, definitely subscribe because next week we're going to be covering E3, which is a huge conference for new video games and news. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And our last episode was a solo movie review, and we had a very special guest, Abi Leon, one of our friends that is a huge movie guy. So check out that one as well if you like Star Wars. I hope you guys have a great week. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to leave us a good review and a comment on iTunes, and you can write us anytime on any of our social medias or at our email, tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week. Trip back to the 90s. We'll have to wear 90s apparel while we play it.
Are you serious? We're not doing webcam.
We'll take it a step farther when we record all our stuff, like our faces and stuff, and we're like neon color, like Fresh Prince Bel-Air kind of stuff.
Oh boy!
That's the 90s.
I vote Angela will have to wear a choker. Keeping it with the 90s.
There you go.
Great.
And then Daniel and I will wear some overalls or whatever.
Jinko jeans.
Oh my gosh. You'll be standing up while you're playing just so you can show off your rad jeans.
Yes. Okay. That's enough of that. Getting back on track.
Oh boy.
Maybe that'll be a blooper.
That's probably the blooper right there.
Yeah.